I can't help but notice that Steve made it a point to say he was the starting pitcher in 1982. So, as a former starting catcher for DeMatha, I'll have to take him out on the field one day. But Mr. Holloway, members of the board, members of the community, it is a great pleasure to be before you all this morning. I think Steve really encapsulated the purpose and why we're here. We do want to go through a very quick presentation just to familiarize everybody with the two projects. We refer to them as Hyde Landing, which is on the property that I think everyone is very familiar with, the former Washington Executive Airport or Hyde Field, and then a property immediately to the north, which is a new element to the project. We're referring to it as the Grove at Hyde Landing, and we've got a PowerPoint. We'll be very respectful of everybody's time. We'll go through that here very briefly. But to Steve's point, we definitely want to endeavor to have more regular meetings with this body in particular. There are a lot of familiar faces on the call. A lot of folks on the call were with us last night at another community meeting. I want to thank the community and for its time and attention. It has really made a mark on these projects, and we still have a very, very long road ahead of us with respect to these projects, multiple years, as a matter of fact, to go through the full entitlement process. So we look forward to continuing our relationships with the community, with the stakeholders that have been intimately involved for about the last year and a half. And we'll go through some of that in greater detail. But I did want to, before we go through the slides, so I'm sure there's going to be questions, I do want to echo Steve's comments with respect to there's just no way we would be on this call with you guys for hours to go over every single element, detail, question. But we do have a website. It's www.hydelanding.com. There's a ton of information on there. We do have to kind of update that website with some newer information. So we're going to be working on that here very soon. But I do want to bring everyone's attention to that website. There's a lot of questions and answers and information on that website. But before I get ahead of myself, I do want to turn it over to Pat Donahue, who is here on behalf of NBR. They are the current owners of the Hyde Landing project. They do not yet own the property that you'll see in a moment we refer to as the Grove at Hyde Landing, which is just to the north. They are currently the contract purchasers, but not yet the owners of that property. But Pat, if you could take a minute or two just to kind of a high level of who you are at NBR, and then we'll get into the slides and answer your questions.
Sure, I'll be brief because I know I've seen a lot of the faces on this call already, and so this is repetitive. And even those who don't know me, I'm sure you really want to know more about the project and more importantly about the traffic improvements we'll be making. But NBR is a public builder. We're headquartered in Reston, Virginia, so we're nationwide or at least east of the Mississippi. But we're a local company too because of our headquarters in Reston. We are about the fourth largest builder in the country. We're the largest builder in the DMV, specifically in Prince George's County. Our market share, it oscillates from year to year, but we build about 30 to 35% of the homes in Prince George's County every year, about 1 out of every 3 homes. We are committed to the community. We've been in Prince George's since 1978, so we're about to complete our 46th year of business in the county. You've seen other builders that kind of come and go as the market shifts and the economy goes up and down. We've been consistently here for the entire time. Our reputation is important to us. I have a litany of projects that I personally have worked on. I've been with NBR for about 18 years, 17 of which I've been doing business within the county. So our reputation is important to us. You've seen it in this Hyde Landing process. You've seen it in a number of the other jobs we've worked on. Some of the jobs we bought were distressed in the downturn, and we came in and fixed them up, notably Oak Creek, Upper Marlboro, Greenbelt Metro, which was idle for several years before we took it over. So we're committed to reaching out. We're committed to working with the community. I know a number of people on this call have seen that to date. With that, I will turn it back over to you, Matt. I know we're really limited on time today.
Yeah, thank you, Pat. We're just going to go ahead and jump in, and I was remiss. Also with us this morning is our traffic engineer, Michael Lenhart with Lenhart Traffic and Consulting, who's on the line as well. Charlie, if we can just let's just jump into it because I know we are a little pressed on time. So I think everybody is familiar with the property, but this is a vicinity map. Hyde Landing is actually on both sides of Steed Road, along Piscataway Road. Represented in yellow on your screens. The Grove at Hyde Landing, which is the property that is currently under contract, not yet purchased, is to the north in the magenta purple color, purple to me at least. It's we're going to talk about these somewhat comprehensively. They are on somewhat two different paths in the sense of during entitlements you have to go through a zoning process, a subdivision process, and a site plan process. The Hyde Landing property has already it has completed the zoning process, but the Grove property has not. So we it's a little bit behind the Hyde Landing property, but from a from at least today's perspective in this meeting, we're going to be, basically talking about the projects as one, um, just to make things a little easier and more time efficient. I think the history of Hyde Field is pretty well known. I don't want to spend too much time. Currently, the airport operations have ceased. The prior owner, as many in the community probably know, was involved in bringing in a lot of dirt and material for stockpiling on the property. That has also come to an end. We have gone through um, the MDE process with respect to the soils testing and remediation. There was some contaminated sites on the property associated with the airfield. All those are actually being handled and addressed now through MDE, so that's a good thing. Um, the key here was to basically, and what we have explained to the community, is really to wipe the slate clean with the prior history as it relates to the property, the prior zoning, and really start over. Start over with the new zoning ordinance, keeping in mind the climate action plan, keeping in mind the new environmental stewardship and smart growth, smart responsible development. And the best way we felt to do that was to really turn the page on the prior zoning ordinance, and look forward and implement the new zoning ordinance. So we underwent about a year and a half rezoning process that was just actually completed. So now we're in the process of really rolling up our sleeves and designing the project. Where we are right now on the Hyde Landing piece is what's called the preliminary plan of subdivision. That will be the plan that actually creates the lots, the open space parcels. It will also be the time at which the project is tested for adequate public facilities. Um, and we have not filed anything in that regard yet. We just held our pre-application neighborhood meeting last night. We still have a little ways to go before we actually start filing that. So we are still very early in that process. As it relates to the Grove, similar thing. We want to just kind of wipe the slate clean, start over, align it more with our vision for Hyde Landing, go through the zoning process so that these properties are all zoned the same, and then we will kind of comprehensively develop these properties as one. The benefit of the Grove is we were able, and what we heard when we were dealing with the Hyde Landing is, some attention to single family detached units. And so the Grove property gives us a great opportunity to introduce another building type to include single family detached along with the single family attached that are proposed with Hyde Landing. The other thing, and I don't mean to be jumping around, it's just a lot to cover in a short period of time, but the other thing that the Hyde Landing project brings to the table is an active adult portion, 55 and older community with villa style homes, ground floor living with optional bedrooms on the second floor, but uh, uh, aging in place is a big priority right now. And so we envision that as part of the Hyde Landing property, primarily in that pod F to the left of your screen. Another critical thing with both these projects is the Stream Valley Park, the Tinkers Creek and its tributaries, and the environmental stewardship that this project brings. As I mentioned before, the prior use of the property, the prior filling operations, the mining operations, we have an opportunity now to kind of reset the clock, bring in responsible growth, responsible climate action plan implementation with respect to preservation. We anticipate conveying about 100 acres of the property to the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission for the Stream Valley Park. That will include public trails, trailheads, amenities for the public, not just the members or residents of this new community, but for everybody in the Clinton area. Um, that's really the high level of the project. Obviously, the biggest issue with any development in this part of the county or specifically is traffic. As Steve mentioned, we are extremely aware of the fact that the roads in this area in particular have remained as they have been for decades and decades and decades. And so we knew going from day one, going into this project, that in order to advance something that the entire community and NVR and the development team could be very proud of and be happy with, we had to address and had to have an answer to the traffic issue. Um, Steed Road, 223, and the surrounding roads are all feeder roads, as we all know, to parts south, Charles County, St. Mary's, and other parts that use these roads as cut throughs to get around 210 and Route 5. So that creates a significant burden on our local roads in this area. Unfortunately, as many of you, I think, know, with other meetings that this organization has had or has been a part of with respect to State Highway Administration and DPW&T and DPI, the state and the county are just not going to make these road improvements. They are going to be born on the backs of the developers. Um, we need to make sure that we fix these roads, not only for the benefit of this project, but also for the benefit of the entire community. And so we have spent a considerable amount of time going well above and beyond what any other developer would otherwise be required to do in the form of public benefits, which have been made conditions of the approval to actually make road improvement projects associated with this development and not just necessarily pay into a fund and then the roads happen when they happen. But this project will make considerable road improvements along Steed Road, Piscataway Road, the intersections, widening it, and Mike Lenhart will go through that now. In addition to that, we also will be making financial contributions to probably the biggest problematic intersection in this area, if not in the county, which is Maryland 223 and Brandywine Road, which we refer to, and most people refer to it as the BK Miller intersection. There is a CIP capital improvement project for the improvements to that intersection. It is partially county funded and partially developer funded. There is a developer participation agreement that's been executed by the county for that improvement project. Before we build our very first house for the Hyde Landing project, we will contribute $2.5 million into that capital improvement project to help advance that intersection being improved. And so I'm going to stop there, let Mike Lenhart start talking about these road improvements. We got some slides to show you the significant amount of improvements that we will be making as a part of the project, both in frontage and offsite improvements. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity. And we really do look forward to working together and meeting with you more regularly. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Let me pop in real quick.
Sure.
We do have a little time, so you can stop drinking hot coffee.
Okay. We just want to be respectful. So yeah, I think the roads are, Mr. Holloway, I think the roads are probably, I would expect, the biggest concern and issue with any development project proposal in the area. So I think we appreciate the time allotment, and I think Mr. Lenhart will take a little bit more time and maybe speak a little slower than I have to just make sure we articulate that well.
Good morning, everyone. So, as Matt said, this intersection is the Brandywine Road at Maryland 223 intersection. Um, the CIP project. It's a $13.5 million CIP project. It involves widening Route 223, where Piscataway Road and Woodyard Road come together, to include additional turn lanes. Most important feature of that is left turn lane on either direction of Maryland 223. Currently, there is no left turn lane, and that creates the need for a very, very inefficient signal phasing at the intersection that creates dramatic delays. And so the installation of the left turn lane in both directions will allow a much better signal phasing that will reduce delays. There will be, again, as you see here, additional turn lane, right turn lane from Piscataway onto Brandywine Road, widening of Brandywine Road, all the way down toward Surratt's Road, where the CIP project was completed a few years ago. This would extend the Brandywine Road widening down to that location. Um, and it would include a construction of a bypass road that goes through the Clinton Marketplace North um, project, which was recently approved, mixed-use commercial residential project. That road will allow some traffic that is coming northbound on Brandywine Road that wants to make a left onto Piscataway to now use that bypass road and access Piscataway via a new traffic signal where the bypass road intersects Piscataway. It would be two traffic signals that basically operate in conjunction that allows um, different movements to occur at the same time. It'll improve traffic flow efficiencies and remove some traffic out of the BK Miller intersection itself. As Matt indicated, we'll be contributing $2.5 million to this fund um, before issuance of any building permits on the Hyde landing site. So next slide. These exhibits show the frontage improvements that will be constructed along Piscataway Road. This is the westernmost or southernmost entrance to Hyde Landing. It would be accel decel lanes and a left turn lane into and out of the site. There will be center left turn lane. You'll see a common theme here. That two-way left turn lane to the right there where the cursor is. By Maryland law, you are allowed to use that left turn lane to make left turns to and from the main line. So it allows people to make a left turn out of the site and enter into that center turn lane and then wait for a gap and merge into northbound Piscataway Road traffic. Uh, it turns the movement into a two-stage, so you don't have to wait for a gap in both directions. You can just look for a gap to the left, turn in to the left turn lane, then wait for a gap from the right, and then merge into traffic. That center turn lane will be extended up to Tippett Road. Today, Tippett Road has a very heavy southbound, or in this case, if you look, I guess, westbound, left turn movement from Piscataway onto Tippett Road. When somebody stops today to make a left, it blocks traffic in the through lane and it causes rear end accident potential and it causes delays along Piscataway. We will be constructing that left turn lane. That's as part of our public benefits to get left turning traffic out of the through traffic. Also, the center left turn lane will allow a benefit of people being able to make that two-stage maneuver turning out of Tippett. And then as you continue east or north, depending how you're looking, this is our eastern access on from Hyde Landing onto Piscataway. Same design, accel decels in the center turn lane. And then if you look to the right side of this exhibit, you can see the Miller Farm on the south side. It's kind of shaded out a little bit. That has the same issues that exist at Tippett. There are no left turn lanes on um, Piscataway, and therefore anybody stops, they're blocking through traffic and causing potential for rear end collisions. That center turn lane will be extended through the Miller Farm to improve safety and operations there. And then when you get to Piscataway at Steed, next slide, there will be capacity improvements at this intersection, widening of Piscataway Road to provide two through lanes through the traffic signal in both directions. That will be one dramatic capacity enhancement, and the other is Steed Road currently is a two-lane road. It's one lane in from Piscataway, and it's one lane out from Piscataway. There is a shoulder on Steed, but it is in very poor condition and it's not marked for traffic use. And so we're going to take a two-lane road and we're going to turn it into a five-lane road at the intersection to allow a double left out of Steed and a right turn with the Axle lane. So the intersection will be substantially improved, as well as you can see Steed Road toward the right side of this exhibit. There'll be through lanes added along the property frontage and left turn lanes added for safety and operations at the site access points. Next. And then this is Piscataway Road heading from Steed up toward Temple Hill Road. And this simply shows the second through lane being transitioned back to the existing conditions. Next slide. And this is Steed Road north of Piscataway, and it shows the additional frontage improvements which would along Hyde Landing, which would result in a second through lane along Steed Road going southbound in the left exhibit, and then the right exhibit is the same. It shows that southbound lane. The Grove project sheets 2 and 3, most of 3 up until where the cursor is shown, show the frontage of the property and the improvements that would be associated with the frontage improvements. Sheet 4 and the left third of sheet 3 are going to show some off-site improvements that we are proposing. So if you go to the next, these are, pardon me, these are the frontage improvements. We'll be constructing an additional lane along southbound Steed Road, which is in this case shows as right to left. And so that second through lane would be an extension of the second through lane that's constructed along Hyde Landing. So there will be 2 through lanes along Steed Road heading southbound here. Northbound, there would be 1 through lane and a left turn lane into the what's shown as the Calipatcha site, which is the Grove Landing, or the Grove at Hyde Landing. And there will be a new left turn lane constructed into Ethan Thomas Drive for the Steeds Glen subdivision. And yes, this is where the yellow box is. Essentially highlights the approximate limits of the Calipatcha property frontage. We will be widening the bridge to accommodate the additional through lane. And then as part of our public benefits and our adequate public facilities improvements, we are proposing to make improvements to Steed Road to continue that second lane of widening going up the hill from the bridge. The land on the bottom side there is MNCPPC property, as you can see, and so that is publicly available property. We would propose to continue the extension of that second through lane all the way up to where it currently terminates on the left side of the paper. That, as you know, when you kind of get north of that point, and it's not shown on this image, but Steed Road widens to a 4-lane collector section. It's a fully built collector roadway section. And so we would propose to extend the southbound side of that to match a half of a collector section along our side of the property. And in doing so, this would basically result in 2 through lanes along Steed Road for the entire distance of Steed Road from Allentown all the way down to Piscataway. That kind of summarizes the traffic improvements.
Thank you, Mike. So Holloway, I was actually typing a response to your question about the residential construction, but I'll stop typing and just answer it. So we have indicated previously that we have committed to providing the financial contribution to the BK Miller intersection improvement, which is again that $2.5 million capital contribution prior to the first residential building permit, and that we have committed to completing the Steed Road, Maryland 223 intersection improvement, which Charlie, if you could flash that back on the screen, have that completed by the 300th residential permit for the project. The rest of all these frontage and road improvements would be made commensurate with the development. Obviously, these are multi-million dollar road improvements. So we do have to have some level of housing ongoing and sales to help offset these costs. But understanding the importance and primarily the BK Miller being a priority, because that is really the problem intersection in the Clinton area. We committed to make that contribution before the first permit is pulled, and then the Steed Road, Maryland 223 intersection improvement, which is a capacity improvement, will be done by the 300th permit, is what we've committed to. I hope that answers your question. With that being said, that really, again, we could spend hours with our land planners going through some of the high points. One other thing, just from a community benefit perspective, I'd mentioned the trail systems that we're going to be proposing, the land dedication to the Planning Commission, Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, their Parks Department, for the Stream Valley Trail. We've also, as part of our outreach, have heard that there's needed community space. So part of the private clubhouse amenity associated with the project, we envision having a available space and room for rental for other communities, other groups, other organizations that may need available space. So we haven't designed any of that yet. We still have to go through the detailed site plan, but we certainly have committed to and will continue to commit to having available space for rental as needed for other associations, communities, etc. I think at this point it's probably a good place to kind of just pause, and I know there have been some questions in the chat I've been trying to keep up with, but obviously we do have Charlie and Alex, other members of the design team here, myself and Pat and the MVR team are here as well. But again, I just want to thank everybody for your time, and it's a very significant project. It's a very important project. We understand how folks may feel about development, but we have really tried to address the community concerns with respect to really having an answer for the road problems out there, and also be responsive to some of the things that we've heard that the community would not like to see out there. And Pat made the very difficult decision to, unlike prior approvals and unlike where we were originally heading with this project to include apartment multifamily, that was pulled off the plan at the request of the community. And we have continued to maintain that commitment in response to the community. So with that, Mr. Holloway, I'm going to turn it back over to Steve just for some closing remarks. I think it looks like we got Steve timed back to his office, which is good. So thank you all again so much, and we look forward to meeting with you continuously over the next many years. Just so you all know, these projects, we're years away. We still have a number of approvals to get. So we are still kind of on the early side of things, but everyone, we want to have a seat at the table, and I look forward to continuing the dialogue.
So, Mr. Holloway, I'll be very brief. I just want to say again, thank you so much. I very sincere. We would like to be invited back as we make progress and keep you and your entire group in the loop. Matt actually articulated something that I was going to share with you. We've had a couple of the stakeholders on this meeting today, and they can attest to some of the changes that we have made was a direct result of what they shared with us. So we take this community engagement very, very seriously, and we look forward to working with you. And I can't thank you enough, but I'll get with my office and we'll coordinate with you for us to come back and continue to come back, if that's fair with you, okay?
Yes, sir, Mr. Wright. That is very fair. Matter of fact, this is leading right into a meeting that's going to be on tonight, which you're well aware of. So, if I may, I'll just jump right over to Ms. Tampa Davis Brown. Go ahead.
Thank you. I found the hand raised thanks to Ms. Fagan. I forgot to ask this question last night. When will the applications for both the preliminary plan of subdivision for Hyde Landing and the application for rezoning for the Grove be filed?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Great questions. Right now, we're targeting hopefully by the end of the year to get those in. It may slip a little to January just because of the holidays, and I'm going to ask Pat to close his ears because I'm sure he would like to move it faster than that. But right now, I think we're targeting for the end of the year as our goal.
Okay, perfect. Great answer. Mr. Proctor, we will have you back on. Things like this is what makes us move, and it's very important to us. And as you well know, and we all know, if we don't talk to each other, things will go awry real fast. And we'll that's the purpose of the meeting, is so we can be engaging and positive responses. So thank you for coming on this morning, presenting what you have. Your team, sorry that everybody couldn't do their thing, but we're going to make it happen. And, so thank you, sir. And we do anticipate having you back on so we can kind of do segments so we can address things as opposed to on a broad scale, which I think will be more effective and impactful for us all.
Absolutely. It's very important to us. You know, Matt and I grew up here. We live here. We play here, go to church here. Pat, has to protect the reputation of his company. So we all have a vested interest to do the right thing and do it the right way. And the best way to do it is together. So thank you so much. And with that, we'll say everybody have a wonderful day. Okay.